The 2006 U.S. Senator John Heinz Award for Greatest Public Service by an elected or appointed official is awarded to Congressman John Lewis. Segregation, violence, injustice. This was the world that John Lewis knew growing up. The son of Alabama sharecroppers, he was just a young boy when he was moved to become a part of the civil rights movement. His inspiration was a voice on the radio, the Reverend Martin Luther King. By the 1960s, Lewis was one of the nation's most recognized civil rights leaders and one of the youngest, fighting segregation on every front. While a student at Fisk University and chairman of the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, he organized sit-ins and took part in freedom rides, constantly putting his life at risk. That risk reached fever pitch when he helped lead 600 demonstrators in a peaceful march for voting rights. But Alabama state troopers were waiting. Their attack was brutal. News coverage of the confrontation, known as Bloody Sunday, sparked a national outcry and contributed to the passage of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Despite being arrested more than 40 times and sustaining serious physical injuries, Lewis stayed true to the philosophy of nonviolence, and his commitment to the civil rights movement reached the national stage. As director of the Voter Education Project, he added nearly 4 million minorities to the voter rolls. In 1977, President Carter appointed him director of the Action Federal Volunteer Agency. And in 1986, he was elected as the U.S. representative of Georgia's 5th Congressional District. For his extraordinary leadership and tenacious fight for universal human rights, the Jefferson Awards is proud to salute a courageous American hero, Congressman John Lewis.
Thank you so much, Professor Heinz Award, for that warm and kind introduction. I must say to the board that I'm deeply honored and very pleased to receive this Jefferson Award named after Senator John Heinz for the greatest public service by an elected or appointed official. I'm so honored and so pleased to be receiving this great honor tonight. Today, when I met with some members of the board in my office, I told many of you a story that I often tell to young people. I tell them, and I tell you tonight, in the civil rights movement, we didn't have a cell telephone. We didn't have a website. We didn't even have a fax machine. We had ourselves. And we used what we had. We put our bodies on the line to bring about what I like to call a nonviolent revolution under the rule of law. A revolution of values, a revolution of ideas. Today we are standing on the shoulders of countless men and women of the movement. Most will be forever nameless. But they were ordinary people with extraordinary vision. And some of them gave all they had to build an all-inclusive society based on simple justice, what I like to call the beloved community. Thomas Jefferson once said that the price of freedom is eternal obedience. He was telling us that freedom is not free. Freedom is not a state, it is an act. It is a series of continuous action that lead to a liberated society, a society free from the burdens of race and class. Gandhi described the action we must take when he said on one occasion, "It is nonviolence or non-existence." Martin Luther King Jr. said it another way, "We must learn to live together as brothers and sisters, or we will perish as fools." And I think the civil rights movement of the 60s demonstrated that the way of love, that the way of peace, the way of nonviolence is the more excellent way. It shows us that if we use what we have to love and not to hate, to build and not to tear down, then we too can help build a beloved community, a nation and a world community at peace with itself. If someone had told me when I was growing up in rural Alabama, many, many years ago, seeing those signs that said white men, white women, white waiting, colored waiting. If someone had told me when I was sitting in, marching from Selma to Montgomery, going on a freedom ride 45 years ago, leaving this city at the age of 21 in 1961. If someone had told me when I marched on Washington in 1963 with Dr. King and others. If someone had told me when we walked across that bridge in Selma, Alabama in 1965, that I would be standing here tonight receiving this magnificent honor, I would say you're crazy, you're out of your mind, you don't know what you're talking about. So we must never ever give up. We must never ever give in. We must keep the faith and keep our eyes on the prize and build a beloved community. When I was growing up, I had an aunt by the name of Seneva. And my Aunt Seneva lived in what we call a shotgun house. She didn't have a green manicured lawn. Had a simple, plain dirt yard. And sometime at night, you look up through the holes in the ceiling, through the tin roof, and count the stars. When it would rain, she would get a pail, a bucket, a tub, and catch the rainwater. From time to time, she would walk out into the woods and take branches from a dogwood tree and tie these branches together and make a broom. And she called that broom the breastroom. And she would sweep this dirt yard very clean, sometimes 2-3 times a week, but especially on a Friday or Saturday, because she wanted that dirt yard to look very good during the weekend. But those of you here tonight may not even know what a shotgun house is. In the nonviolent sense, it's an old house, one way in, one way out, where you can bounce a basketball through the front door and it will go straight out the back door. In the military sense, the whole house, one way in, one way out, maybe a tin roof, where you can fire a shotgun through the front door and the bullets will go straight out the back door. My Aunt Seneva lived in a shotgun house. But one Saturday afternoon, a group of my brothers and sisters and a few of my first cousins, I'm playing in my Aunt Seneva dirt yard. Now, unbelievable storm came up. The wind started blowing, the thunder started rolling, the lightning started flashing, and the rain started beating on the tin roof of this old shotgun house. Mom became terrified. She started crying. She thought this whole house was going to blow away. She got all of us little children together and told us to hold hands. And we cried and we cried. The wind continued to blow. The thunder continued to roll. The lightning continued to flash. And the rain continued to beat on the tin roof of this old shotgun house. And from one corner of this old house appeared to be lifted from its foundation. Mom had us to walk to that corner to try to hold the house down with our little body. In the other corner appeared to be lifted, had us to walk to that side. We were little children walking with the wind, but we never left the house. Senator John Heinz never left the house. Jacqueline Kennedy never left the house. And members of the board tonight, you must never ever leave the house. We all live in the same house. Those of us who live on this little piece of real estate that we call Earth must learn to live together, not just in the house of Washington, not just in the American house, but in the world house. We all live in the same house. We are one family. We are one house. We are one people. Tonight, walk with the wind. And let the spirit of Jefferson and let the spirit of John Heinz be your guide. Thank you very much.